Once again, the town gave absolutely everything but came up just short as a late Son Heung-min goal sent the Hatters to a 2-1 defeat at the very impressive Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Alongside me to review afternoon, which once again offered so much hope but ultimately so much disappointment, is the Lutonian journalist James Cunliffe. Jimbo.
We're going to get through this podcast if I can just go, that'd be it.
And we'll do all of that after this intro.
Can you believe it? We are Premier League! Yes!
I love this town. I love this town. I love this town. You know what I love about this town is actually you. Everyone in it has got these massive souls. We're Luton people, and that's what we care about.
Hello everyone, welcome along to another episode of the Luton Town Supporters Trust podcast. As I said before the intro, myself and James to review Tottenham 2, Luton 1. And James, it was another one of those afternoons where we've taken the game to one of the top sides, got in front of them, but got in front of them too early and just couldn't hold on.
Yeah, I prefer let's just scream down the barrel of the lens for the next half an hour, Drew, because Jesus, if this was a music album, we'd be into, now that's what I call Groundhog Day, greatest hits, wouldn't it? It's just ridiculous how it's panning out. I'm sort of laughing about it because what else can you do?
Well, I mean, funnily enough, Rob was asked that in the pre-match press conference, wasn't he? Do you laugh about it or do you cry? And he said he didn't laugh, but at the same time, he's not crying. And I kind of understand that. I was privileged enough actually to be alongside James in that pre-match as we were waiting to do an interview with Thomas Kaminski, which is going to come out later this week. And he cut a he looked a lot better in the pre-match than he has done for a few. It looked like it had been weighing him down a little bit towards the end of that, sort of before that international break. But he looked much fresher, and I think the team did initially. I thought the team looked really good to start off with, despite all of the injuries. And of course, as we found out in that pre-match press conference, players who we thought might be returning have had setbacks. Players who we were hoping weren't going to be as bad, in Chio's case, is bad. And that kind of led to two changes from the Nottingham Forest game. Andros Townsend came into the starting lineup and Luke Berry came into the starting lineup. Really sort of good reward for scoring that equaliser against Notts Forest. So Townsend in, Berry in, Clark dropped to the bench and Chio obviously missed out completely. But when I looked at the team sheet, the one thing that jumped right out straight away, a certain Fred Onyedin was on the bench. Now, I have to be honest, and this is no slant on Fred whatsoever, I'd completely forgotten that we'd got him back from Rotherham. But he didn't have a squad number or anything else, and then there he is. He's gone from 23 to 32, and get yourself on the bench, mate. You've got two working legs, you're in.
Yeah, I mean, I knew he was back. I think I was in a press conference maybe a couple of weeks before the international break where someone asked about is he possibly available, and at that stage it was no. So I'd gone back to discounting him at that stage, and if they'd gone out to play at a team which is relegation fodder in the Championship now, isn't it? You wouldn't expect that he'd be back in the side. So and that is the situation we're in at the moment, isn't it? And it is no slant on him. I mean, I really liked him in the Championship. He's really unfortunate with injuries, wasn't he? And that sort of thing. But, adds a bit of pace. And, I mean, we're now facing a situation there's more players injured than there are fit, isn't there? Really?
Yeah, we'll come on to that depressing story in a moment. But it all started so well, though, didn't it? As I say, the team looked a lot fresher right from the first whistle. I mean, obviously you'd expect it to be. They rightly had the first week of the international break off, or at least 4 days of it off. They only started really coming back in full force the Monday before the game, so it was right to get the sort of freshness into them. And straight away, we're on the front foot. It's pretty obvious that we targeted their left back area. Destiny Udogie kind of he's one of those that goes into the midfield to make up the numbers in the midfield when the team's attacking, but it leaves an awful lot of space behind him when they lose the ball, as they did do. Townsend carried the ball a hell of a long way, actually, after they lost the ball. He must have run sort of 60 yards down that wing. And you were like, just pick the right ball. And then you were like, cross the bloody thing, man. But he knows exactly what he's doing, Andros Townsend. And he waited until the right moment where he could find Ross Barkley in the box. Was Barkley going to shoot? Just as it looked like to everyone, including all the Tottenham players, that he was going to shoot. I don't even know how he can see Chong, but he obviously has seen Chong, or Chong's given him the mother of all shouts. I mean, it must have been a megaphone shout with the noise that place makes. But he's seen him, rolls him in lovely. Chong just controls it and then drills it back across the goalkeeper. Brilliant goal, brilliant start, exactly what we deserved. And then you look up at the clock and you're like, oh no, not again. It was just like Liverpool.
Yeah, it was a great finish, and he's one of the players that have got injured since, hasn't he? But he's been having a great time since he's essentially been forced to be a starter because there's not enough bodies. He's really stepped up to the plate, and it was a great finish. And I mean, that's exactly the phrase I'd go for. Oh no, not again! But I'd say that about a lot of different facets of the game. I mean, scoring early goals, and you think, well, that's going to anger them. Oh no, not again. Conceding late ones. Oh no, not again. Gifting goals. Oh no, not again. And the big one, obviously, now it's just beyond a joke. I think whatever's a word to describe worse than a crisis, that's what his injury situation is now. It's dire.
Yeah, it is. It is. This was a different setup though for the Town. This is the first time under Rob Edwards that Luton have started a game with a back four in the league. They might have done it in a cup game, but in the league. So it's the first time they started with a back four. So we had Alfie on the left, who looked a lot more fresher after. I mean, he was absolutely cream crackered, wasn't he, before the international break? Posted on his Instagram, though, that he was a bang up for the last 9 games, and quite rightly so. Ted and Mengi inside of him. And then you had Reece Burke, and then you had Issa Kabore. That was your back four that started. And they were a lot deeper. That was the first thing that you could notice. Whether that's because we went ahead so early, and had we not have been ahead, we'd have been further up the pitch trying to get ahead. I don't know, but the kind of vibes of the interviews that have come out of the club and things suggest that there's talking that they were talking about low blocks and defending lower and things like that. So that must have been part of the game plan. And then he had 3 in front of them. I mean, if you'd said 10 years ago, well, actually it was 10 years ago on Good Friday, we lost to Halifax and that unbeaten run in the conference ended. If you'd said that day, in 10 years' time, you're going to be playing Tottenham with Ross Barkley flanked by Pelly Ruddock-Kampanzu and Luke Berry in the midfield, I'd have called the doctor for you.
I'd have carted you off, mate.
It's crazy. And then you had Tahith Chong, Andros Townsend, either side of Carlton Morris, and it worked. It really worked in that first half. When we didn't have the ball, as I say, we dropped quite deep, not quite to the edge of our penalty box, but near enough. And they were kind of narrow enough that Townsend and Chong would drop off to basically make it a back 6 with 3 in front of them, and then the 1. And they just couldn't get through, really, Tottenham. When they did get through, they had 2 chances, didn't they? They had the Werner one, who was never going to score as long as he had a hole up his backside. Put it wide after he turned Kabore inside out. And then they had the other one, didn't they, where Mengi's pass to Pelly wasn't quite crisp enough. They pounced on it. That was a trap. They set that trap because they all pounced on that as soon as that pass happened. And then I don't even know how Son's shot's not gone in. Credit to Kaminsky, who's forced him as wide as he possibly can. But he's hit a shot onto the inside of the near post that's rolled right the way across, hit the other post, and come out. And then all sorts of chaos ensues. It was just crazy how we kept the ball out of the back of the net then.
Yeah, and it was a block as well, wasn't it? I mean, that was all of their chances in one. Luton did a great job at frustrating them, really. And it's almost like, we've got to half time doing that. Great. But there's often not a 90-minute performance of that. And so you're sort of thinking, okay, what's going to happen now? And they obviously switched it up and they got their tails really up, but it's the manner of the equaliser, isn't it? I don't know how he shanked that into the goal. It's not. I mean, just wrap your foot around it and be on your way. And there's no real danger. The worst thing about it, and it's not just that game, it's lots of games. so many times teams don't have to undo Luton. Luton just do it themselves.
Yeah, that's true. Mengi it was with the block, wasn't it, from Papa Sarr's shot from that double post bouncy follow-up thing. And that was actually a great block as well, because he didn't half ping that, Sarr, to be fair, and get in the way of that. That was a good effort. Yeah, you're right. The key thing at half-time was they took off the absolutely ineffective Kulusevski. He couldn't have been any more ineffective if he was sat next to me in the stands. Mm-hmm. And they brought on Brennan Johnson. And herein lies the difference, right? The 11 that we can put on a pitch is fine. It's competitive. It's nowhere near our best 11, and no one is saying that it's anything like that. But where the problem comes is when we go up against these teams, they've got millions and millions and millions and millions of pounds worth to come off the bench. And with the greatest will and the greatest respect in the world, we've got a bloke who bottom of the Championship didn't fancy. Corley Woodrow, Jordan Clark, they're coming off the bench. In fact, all of our subs who came on Saturday, they've probably not got 1,000 Premier League minutes between them. And this lot are bringing them all on. I mean, Rob really is going into battle here in a poker game with Uno cards, isn't he? That is exactly how it is.
Yeah, I like that, because the only analogy I could come up with is there's just a one-legged man in an arse-kicking contest at the moment. It's just, I've never known anything like it. I mean, I can't even remember now the last time that we played a game and somebody didn't get injured or go off. Even if they came back the next game, but it affected that game because they had to go off. It's just ridiculous. Well,
the worst thing about it is it's not one. It's multiple. You look at Notts Forest, Pelly and Alfie both went off with injuries. You know, Saturday, 3 of them have gone off with injuries. So Reece Burke's gone off at half-time. Let's not downplay that, by the way, because he had Maddison absolutely in his pocket. The only time Maddison was a factor in the game was when he was rolling around on the floor being an arse. And apart from that, because I've got to be honest, I think we mentioned it in the preview as well, we had to keep Maddison quiet, but who would we going to keep Maddison quiet with? Because we don't have a natural defensive midfielder. Going to the game, that was my big fear. But Reece Burke, every time he was anywhere near the final third, Burke was on him, shackled him absolutely completely. They were obviously not worried. They were worried about Son, but they knew that Mengi could handle him. But they weren't worried about the 2 wide players, and that was fine. So Burke going off, Hashioka coming on, and that was okay in terms of at least Hashioka's got legs, because they were, you know, you could tell by the Johnson substitution they were just going to throw pace at us in that second half. But the drop off from Burke to Hashi, and it's no disrespect at all, I'm sure Hashi will be a fantastic footballer for us in time, but Burke is a genuine Premier League class centre back. Hashi's making his way in the Premier League right back stroke right wing back. That's the kind of drop off. And of course later in the game we've ended up with a winger, centre back, and 2 right backs as our back 4. This is how it's hurting us. You know, they were key moments. The Burke injury is a key moment. I'd love to have seen how we'll have done, because ultimately Cabore's tapped in from right in front of his goalkeeper where Reece Burke would have been normally. So you don't really want to keep mentioning these injuries, and Rob won't use them as an excuse, and he's made that perfectly clear. But he's got every right to, because the man who would have been there to just hoof that ball as far away as... And Cabore should still have done it, don't get me wrong. But it happened, what did it happen? 4 or 5 minutes into that second half? So they're still readjusting from where they were. And it's just another killer blow.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And we've been there before so many times. You concede an early goal, whether it's you're drawing at the time or winning, and they get back into it, and you just feel like that the floodgates are going to open. I mean, the fact that they didn't is an achievement in itself, but it doesn't really mean much in the long run because of the result. But, you know, while it wasn't floodgates, it paved the way towards them winning, didn't it? And it's just the timings of these goals are killer, I think. Whether it's like just before half time. And I think sometimes you sort of have to give Premier League teams a credit. They are killer, and they go for you at those times because they know how important they are. If you like take a setback just for half time, changes the half time team talk. If you get one straight after, changes the complexion of the second half, and then you go again. And it can't be fluke that it keeps happening, but it does keep happening. It's really fucking annoying.
It is annoying, yeah. I mean, this is just a fresh... I mean, this as we know from all of this Nottingham Forest fallout, £47 million Tottenham paid for Brennan Johnson, and he's come on, he's fresh as a daisy against players that have obviously been running around 45 minutes and are kind of tired. But when the equaliser goes in, I think it's human nature to think, uh-oh. And, you think back to Liverpool. It's very, very similar situation. Thankfully, this gaff's full of tourists, so the noise wasn't really what it would normally be. Kind of noisy for a bit when they scored, but Liverpool, you couldn't hear yourself think, your ears were ringing. That was never the case yesterday, even though there were more people there. Never ever the case. And we got ourselves back in the game. Rob made a good change, took Berry off, brought Clark on. Not anything against Berry, but he'd done an hour and he hasn't played much football, so we probably didn't have much more in him than that. He brought Jordan Clark on, and God, I thought Clark had given us the lead almost as soon as he came on. Chests a ball, a corner gets punched out to him, doesn't it? From a goalkeeper who didn't look particularly secure. We said he wasn't particularly secure in the preview. Chests it down. He's had this shot a couple of times in previous games, hasn't he? And he skied it into a different galaxy. But he kept this one down, and it's in for all money. And then just out of nowhere, just as the ball's behind him, out comes the keeper's right hand and he pushes it around the post. It's a brilliant save. It's one of the best saves I can think of an opposition goalkeeper's made against us this season.
Yeah, I mean, I thought perhaps that it was far enough out and maybe not hit with enough venom for where it was hit. It was accurate, but, he had to make the save anyway. It was a good one because it's low right in the corner. Yeah, and these are the sorts of times and your chances that you need to take, and kind of felt like we'd turned that corner, beginning of the year, mid-January time. And now because of injuries, and that's why they are relevant, you don't have that. I mean, they're still scoring. Remarkably, they're still on this massive scoring run of scoring in every game. But it's not 2s and 3s now, is it? It's you've got that one, and then the other one's not coming, because if it does, again, it changes the complexion of that game, and maybe they're frustrated again. But there's nothing really going right at the moment, is there?
No, there isn't. As I say, I really did think we kind of don't really want to use the term weathered the storm, because it wasn't really a storm. It was just the only thing we couldn't do. We just couldn't contain Johnson down that right-hand side. That's not for any other reason than we just haven't got the personnel to do it. Alfie hasn't got pace down that side. Obviously, we're missing Amari, who could have gone in there and maybe matched him up, like when he played for Notts Forest against us on Good Friday a couple of years ago. And Nathan put Fred and Amari down that side to quash him, and I think it was Spence in behind him for Notts Forest that day. But we don't even have that option available to us. So they always had that kind of option. But to Alfie's credit, he plugged away and he made probably the best goal line clearance you're ever going to see. I mean, what is it? One blade of grass away from going over the line. I mean, to throw himself in there and keep the ball out, and obviously he's injured himself in doing it, which, how's your Donald? But it just shows the commitment of these lot. They're never not going to be committed, and you just kind of wish that sort of act was rewarded with a result at the end of it.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? Because it should have done, and it probably would have done, but for mistakes, costly mistakes. In similar for like, the Burke block in the previous home game, that sort of thing, that they should count for more, because they're putting bodies on the line, literally in the case of Doughty on this one, because he's gone off, and hopefully it's maybe an impact injury in a similar way to Pelly. We don't really know so much, so we have to wait for the pre-match presser and see the extent of it. But, it goes off, you're depleted again. What options you got to come off the bench? I'm not saying not a lot, but
well, the fact that
players that haven't played a lot in the Premier League.
Well, the fact that Corley Woodrow came off the bench for him, again, no disrespect to Corley, but you're not bringing a defender on for him. You're bringing on an attacking player, and this is at 1-1 as well. So, if you had any kind of defensive player on there, and I know a lot of people said Joe Johnson, no, don't put Joe Johnson up against that Brennan Johnson. That would not have been right. at least with Fred, he's got the pace to match him. Gives us half a chance. Ultimately, Fred just hasn't played enough football to be up to speed with it. I thought he did as well as he could do, to be fair. He didn't do anything wrong. But he was put on, Fred, wasn't he, for Burke and to give us some energy. But we just couldn't really get him involved in an attacking sense down that side, because not just Alfie went, but Chong went as well. And at that point, Chong had been absolutely brilliant. Not just the goal, his defensive discipline, the fact that Porro wasn't really in the game and he's one of the most dangerous right-backs in the league, was largely down to Chong. Thought he was having an absolutely superb game. We saw him, didn't we, as we walked out of the training ground the other day, and he's a nice kid. And I said to him something along the lines of, you've given us our moment of the season or something for the Liverpool goal, and he said, no, I hope our moment of the season is still to come when we stay up. And yeah, nice kid, and he was playing so well. I didn't actually see what happened to him because it was right in front of the dugouts on the other side of the pitch to where we were, but he didn't look great, and you kind of sense that Arsenal will come too soon, but you just hope that he's okay, because he's playing some really good football. That was his third goal in 5 in the Premier League, obviously to go along with the Aston Villa and Bournemouth ones. And I mean, when you're dishing out Player of the Month for March, he's got to be right up there.
Oh, yeah, I would say he would be mine, because, like I say at the start of this episode, I think he's really stepped up to the mark now that he's been called on, and it's been almost the making of him. He takes so many knocks anyway because of the way he plays, and he draws fouls and stuff, and sometimes that's great because it relieves pressure and stuff. And so he might be used to that and getting the knocks and bouncing back. I think he had ice on his knee, or ice on him. So hopefully maybe that's another sort of impact on Pelly's style. We'll wait and see. But it'll be a massive loss if he's out, because he's scoring as well, isn't he? He's getting in goal scoring positions, and he's really providing a link when everybody's kind of out on their feet, but he's still doing all the running and making those bursts between the lines. And it's so important. If he's not going to be in the side, and I don't anticipate he probably will be in the side for Arsenal. I mean, that's another debate when we get to that episode about who do you field for that, and how do you approach it? Because I mean, if no one's expecting to beat Tottenham, then bloody hell, the next 2 away games, you're not expecting anything out of them, are you? Really? Yeah, it's just a blow when he goes off, because there's not that energy, but also attacking intent as well.
I think that was the thing, the attacking intent. I mean, he's so athletic, and like you say, recent games when players have been out on their feet, he's still got enough in him to chase men back and at least hold them up, if not, dispossess them and things. And we did a lot of that on Saturday, to be fair. But again, they're still not really laying siege on us. Kaminsky hasn't really made many saves at all in the game because he hasn't had many to make. He did make one relatively early on in the second half from Son, I think it was, with his feet. But apart from that, he didn't make too many. I mean, it helped that Werner couldn't hit a cow's ass with a banjo, but...
You don't like it, do you?
No, I don't. I think he's absolutely useless. And how they've spent or are about to spend so much money on him, I've absolutely no idea. Every time he went through on goal or had the ball in the penalty box, everyone behind each goal stood up, and I'm like, why? Save your legs. There is no chance that this bloke is putting the ball anywhere near the... He had a clear shot in the first half, and he must have missed it by a country. I don't even know why Kaminsky dived. He must have just keep warm, because it was nowhere near. He is absolutely... When I saw him on the team sheet, because I feared Brennan Johnson, because I knew his pace and his directness, and I knew that we're struggling. When I saw Werner was on the team sheet and not Johnson, I thought, happy days. But unfortunately, they worked out that they needed Johnson a little bit too soon. Last 5 minutes, Town get forward again. Lovely move between Townsend and Kabore down the right-hand side. Kabore wins a corner. There's an awful lot of teams in our situation who don't bother with the corner. They just keep everyone back, just kill the clock and everything else. Take the 1-1 draw. We're not like that. We do send men forward. We put the corner in the box. Comes out to Clark. This time he doesn't shoot towards goal, and he shanks a pass into the worst person of all that he could have shanked the pass into, Son Heung-min. Then he commits the next cardinal sin of not just bringing him down and taking the yellow card. If you watch the Newcastle game prior to it, Anthony Gordon does exactly that. Gets his yellow card. I know he was stupid enough to get sent off afterwards, and you kind of hope that Clark wouldn't have got sent off in that situation. So he doesn't wipe him out. No one's catching Son. But thankfully, Fred's kind of got back to at least hold them up and make them go wide, and then back into Johnson. He passes it back to Son. Please just sky it. Do anything. Don't hit the target. Oh, it's a soft shot. Happy. Oh, no, it's hit Hashioka and it's gone past the keeper. I mean, if it wasn't for bad luck, this lot have got no luck at all. I don't know how many black cats they've run over, how many ladders they've walked under, but I'm out of words to describe our luck. I really am.
Well, yeah, I mean, there is none. There's just absolutely nothing because they contain them so well that you were thinking at that point, because it wasn't a siege by any stretch of the imagination. And we know, and we highlighted anyway, that Tottenham are really good on the counter. And if you give that to them, so then maybe now in hindsight, the debate has to be, should we have just taken the point? I know we need 3 better, but nobody outside of Luton was expecting anything from Tottenham. So a point's great, isn't it? And obviously, based on what happened with the Forest result, you're still above them in the table. And now it's annoying. I mean, that's one of the other annoying things, that it just feels like you've done it on the deep dive episode, so you can go and look into all of that, but it feels like they're cheating and you still can't get any luck against these teams that are not doing the right thing. And it's I know there's still games to play with, but they're rapidly turning into must wins, aren't they? And we'll come to that, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But yeah, it's just another sort of frustrating aspect of it. And I know, it's sort of 6 minutes, isn't there, before the 90's up, and then they give, what was it, 9? It just never really felt like there was going to be a response, because the timing of that goal is a killer. It just sucks anything out of any potential out of it, regardless of what you want to say and how much heart they have and put into it, which they do. But we've been there so many times, haven't we? It's just like those goals at those crucial times. That's what does it.
Yeah, it is. I mean, in response to the should we have taken the 1-1 or not, I mean, there's a lot of hindsight in that, isn't there?
Yeah.
If they don't score, then. But I'm actually, as a Town fan, I'm actually proud that we're going to try and win these games. No one even gave us a right to be in the division at this point. At the start, least of all challenging a side who could be playing Champions League football next season. So with 5 minutes left, and also we're so good with set pieces that I think we just have to attack them. And okay, if we concede on one as a byproduct, then fair enough. But we are just so good at set pieces, and we highlighted that goalkeeper flaps at just about anything. Just so happens that he got a decent punch on this to get it out of the box. But I think it was the right thing to do to send people forward. I mean, if it ends up in the back of the net, their net, it's a genius move. Just so happens that, as I say, the one person Clark shanked the pass to on the whole pitch, if he shanks it to Dragutin or whatever he was called, or Romero or anyone else, there's going to be 2 or 3 passes before that counter-attack happens. Just so happens it fell to the bloke who leads the counter-attack, and he's away and gone. And once Clark hasn't taken him out on the halfway line, which we don't do. We didn't do it at Newcastle for Gordon. We didn't do it. I can't remember. Sheffield United at home, wasn't it? We didn't take Archer out. We just don't do it. And ended up in the back of our net. But yeah, I'm proud of the fact that we take the game to these teams. So many teams don't. And I was speaking to some Spurs fans on the train on the way back, and they were like, credit to you for giving it a go and making it hard work for us. So many teams are scared to come and attack us, and we have to try and break them down, and we have it easy knowing that we can't concede, but it's at the other end. So fair play for having a good go, and hope you stay up and all that, which is just sort of nice to hear. But
I kind of feel like with that, though, that we've heard it a lot from the big teams, and they go, well, don't you give it a go? We're happy because we've got the result.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Liverpool, well, we're happy because we beat you, but well done, plucky Luton. I just feel it's a bit damning with faint praise because they've got the result they want. And yes, they say it's good that you went and attacked us because, you know, obviously we beat you, and that's how it goes. But sometimes,
I think
you can be a little bit, play it a little nasty.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I like I say, I just wish we would take players out on the halfway line. You put the roles in reverse, and the players taken out. It's just how it is. But I think as fans, whether you win the game or you lose the game, you enjoy the game more when two teams are attacking. I know Sheffield United did the job on us, and so this isn't sour grapes in any way, shape or form. And the game plan that they used was perfectly suited to the way that they wanted to win the game, and that's fine. But it was a crap game to watch, wasn't it? One team it was just basically watching a training drill of attack against defence. So I think teams do appreciate us going and having a go at them. Yeah, of course, it gives them a much better chance of winning. Of course it does. But is it, you know, Tottenham tickets aren't cheap, as we're finding out when they turn their back on their on the pitch in support of their OAPs. You know, the tickets are not cheap there. So I can imagine that if you're a Tottenham fan and you're sat there, you'd much rather Luton come and have a go than sit there and watch a game against Sheffield United who just put 10 in front of the goal and hope that you can't break them down. So yes, it's faint praise, but at the same time, I can kind of see where it's coming from. We did have a chance there, didn't we? Right at the end. Cabore's got in down the byline. He stood the ball up, but what he hasn't done is he hasn't picked out Clark's head or feet. He's just stood it up to the back post, and again, as luck would have it, it's fallen on his chest. And by the time he's taken a touch, the chance is gone. Had it been on his head, he could have thumped the header at goal. Had it been on his feet, he could have hit a volley at goal. It's just those small things that in the Championship that happens. Clark gets the time to chest it down and pick his spot. In the Premier League, the second you've had that touch, ball's away and gone.
Yeah, that's it. But when we've been talking about this the whole season, it's these imprecise things which make, or the precise things for the other opposition team that make them as good as they are, and the imprecise things which means we're going, oh, what if only, and they don't seem to be like happening in the right moments. When you get that chance, you've got to be clinical. And like I say, it felt like they were sort of turning that corner mid-January time. And then obviously the injuries do play a part. You've got to say that. And I'm kind of bored of people banging on about why didn't Luton buy players in January, because nobody bought players in January. Even teams with vast wealth of nations behind them didn't buy any players. So exactly who are they supposed to have bought? And who was available? It's a nonsense. And also at that point, there were no, this crisis didn't exist. It wasn't a thing. We had Tom Lockyer and Marvellous Nakamba out, and that's it. And so I'm really kind of bored of that argument. But they are playing a part. The injuries are hugely playing a part in every facet, really, because, you know, if 3 players go off, if you were full strength, 3 players goes off, you're weakened, but you're not full strength in the first place, and 3 players go off, and players that were playing so very well, as we've already highlighted, Chong and Mengi, not Mengi, sorry, Burke in particular, so very good. And the Doughty is one of the best outlets for attacking as well, and they go off, and then you're depleted further, and yeah, it leaves these things open. So that's why you can have this debate of should you settle for a point or go for it. But we know that in the pre-match press conference, and he said it before as well, that attack is the best form of defence, because what other option you got? You've got to try and win games. It's just the hindsight argument, isn't it? Oh, well, maybe we should have done this. Well, that's no good to anyone, really.
But ultimately, you know, should we have sat back and had the 1-1 draw? We've got right winger at left back. We've got centre back. We've got right back. We've got right back in our back 4. I mean, if we're sitting back, we're asking 2 men out of position and one who's very, very young in the position that he's in to defend for us, with no defensive midfielder in front of them. So I can understand why Rob went for it. I've no problem with it whatsoever. Didn't work out for us on the day. But again, if we'd scored from that corner, and we score from a lot of corners, if we'd scored from that corner and we win the game 2-1, he's a genius and it's incredible. With regards to the injuries, though, of course they're playing a factor, right? Let's just say Mads Anderson's on the bench and he comes on for Reece Burke. The first goal doesn't happen. Mads Anderson will be in position. He'll just clear the ball away. That's absolutely fine. Let's say Jacob Brown is on the bench for Chong. Jacob Brown's work rate, he'll have been fresh. Some of these counter-attacks wouldn't have happened. You know, we haven't really got anything with regards to Doughty. That's just how it is. But had Bella been fit, he'd have gone to left back. And again, we'd have had a defender with pace who could have coped with Johnson. So, of course, these injuries are having a say. And you're absolutely right with what you say. That nonsense about January, just forget about it. Look at Newcastle, right? They came to our place 7-10 days before Christmas, absolutely ravaged with injuries. Didn't sign one player in January, and they've got a bottomless pit of money. So if they can't sign a player in January, Luton haven't got much chance. So, you know.
Well, yeah. I mean, I sometimes think that people just go, we need the bodies, but you need players that are going to be able to compete at Premier League level as well.
But also, even if you get the bodies, what are you doing? Signing them for 6 months? Because if you're not, you're going to have these bodies that you then don't need at the end of the season, clogging up spaces in your squad, because you can still only have 25 players. But even if they're not in the 25-man squad, you still got to pay their wages beyond the end of this season. So we then go the other way, don't we? We have players that we don't want, that we can't shift, that are clogging up our wage bill. You know, so they've run that. Look, 2020 know exactly what they're doing. They've run it fine. If someone had said to them on January the 31st, look, you're going to have 14 injuries within the next 2 months, I think they'll have gone out and got some players. But they didn't. The only thing that you can say is why we left the squad space free. They could, you know, we could have maybe filled that, but hey, we filled it with Fred. So, you know, it's just one of those things. As I say, I'm proud of the way that we went about it. I'm proud of the fact that we've taken the game to all of these teams. Yes, we haven't got as many points to show for it as what we should have done. But like I referred to previously, 10 years ago, the day before, we were losing at Halifax. And that was a drab performance.
Yeah. I mean, that's the caveat to all of it, isn't it? And I do have to keep reminding myself. I'm glad we're having this chat here, because I was very fed up, and I still am to a certain extent. But then you've got to add the caveats in of, look where we were, look where we are, look who you're playing. They're going for Champions League. We can barely put an 11 out, and all these things come into it. But at the time, like if we did this like immediately afterwards, I'd have been raging, because I was so annoyed, because they're all deja vu things that we've seen so many times, and it's like, how many more times can we go through the same thing? But yeah, I mean, you do have to add these things, and it's right that you can be angry. I'm not saying that to anybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lots of people online who are angry, and that's cool. That's fine. I was too. You can live in a world where you can have both things. I say this all the time. You can be angry and understanding at the same time. I think some people tick it over into the negative area on social media a bit too much. Ultimately, and we said this at the beginning when we started this podcast this season, you know, we're going to give it a go. But if Luton get relegated, it's not the end of the world, is it? Because of the where we have been argument, and what one season in the Premier League does. I guess the point is you change your opinions, or you update your opinions to suit where you are in the particular moment, don't you? And you've got a chance to stay in the Premier League and be there for another season.
But we still have that chance. That chance hasn't gone. Just because we lost 2-1 at Tottenham, that chance hasn't gone. I think, and I just wonder, I mean, obviously with social media, you don't know exactly who it is and things like that. As a collective fan base, have we just forgotten what it's like to lose? Because for the last 10 years, we haven't lost. Apart from that 1 year when we were first in the Championship. And even then, for a quarter of that season, we weren't there anyway. Have we just forgotten how to lose? I remember when we had Wilco here early on, the first time round, I said to him, or we said to him, are you enjoying the Premier League, or are you looking forward to the Premier League? And he said, I'm pretty sure I'm quoting verbatim, but don't quote me on it if I'm not, but it's certainly something along the lines of, I don't know, because I'm not used to losing, and we're going to lose a lot this season.
Yeah.
And I just think that's where we're at. We're just not used to losing, and we've forgotten that all the challenges that make up a game, we're on the flip side of it all now. And I just wonder if that's what it is, because, you know, I grew up of a time where trying to finish fourth from bottom in the top flight was second nature to Luton. They achieved it, ironically, in every season apart from the one that really mattered, the one when the Premier League came along. So this is second nature to me. I've seen this all before. This is all water under the bridge to me. We are in no way, shape or form in anywhere near as much trouble as we were in 2 or 3 of those supposed great escapes. We're not. We're not even close to that yet, aside from the fact that we're struggling to put an 11 out. But in terms of how the league table looks, this is fine. Believe me, we've been in much worse situations than this. Because of the last 10 years, we've had seasons where we've had upwards of 20, 25 wins. I just wonder if we've forgotten what a season of losing all the time feels like, even though we knew this season isn't going any different to how we expected it. Right back at when you was on the train to Brighton, if you thought this season wasn't going to go exactly how it has done in terms of the amount of games we've lost and results and things, then you're probably barking up the wrong tree to begin with. Where this season has been fantastic is we've been involved in some absolute Rolls Royce of games of football. Some incredible games of football that no one sitting on that train to Brighton could ever have guessed that we'd have been involved in. Newcastle away, Arsenal at home. 45 minutes we led at Liverpool. The moments at home we led against Liverpool. We've led Manchester City this season. Hell, we've led everyone that there is to lead. That's the difference. And but I just think we've just forgotten what losing feels like as a fan base. And yeah, it's not nice, and no one wants to do it, but until we can establish ourselves in this league, we've got to go through it. But we'll only come out of it if we're collectively together all the time and push towards and believe that we can push towards the end goal. If we all stop believing, that's it. We might as well pack it in. And I think Rob said that in his pre-match press conference. If we stop believing, what's the point in even trying? But we just got to keep the faith with this. We're still well in this fight. I can't stress that enough. We're in bottom 3 on goal difference. We're not 10 points adrift. We're not Sheffield United. Yeah. Imagine being them going to games now. And even when you win a game against Fulham, you can't win it because you go and concede 2 goals from no. Imagine being them. No, we're not them. We're right in this fight. And we just got to hold our nerve. That's all we got to do.
Yeah, I mean, that's the balance of it for me, because I mean, even as early as this morning, I was texting you one night saying I'm just fed up. I mean, I've had a skinful as well, so that didn't help. I was hanging, but yeah, I was really fed up by it. I mean, I gained some perspective sort of at midnight when I was 3 sheets to the wind. I was quite happy. I was having a good time, but yeah, I suppose it's the mood you're in at the time, and that goes for like immediately after a football match when you've just lost it, when you thought an unlikely point was a good result, and you might get that, and you know, these things happen, and that's probably the downfall, I guess, of social media. But we all do it. But yeah, there's this. I guess there is this element of having to be together about it, and understanding that there's going to be younger fans as well. So like you say, we're long enough in the tooth to remember the old top flight days, but there'll be younger fans that probably did. Some of them would have experienced the conference, but then the last 10 years have been pretty remarkable, save for the Championship Great Escape season. And you know, memories are short, because if you think back to that before COVID hit, we were like, shit, this is going really bad.
2 games out, exactly. We were like, oh my god.
Yeah, exactly. And so even, you know, you don't even have to look too far back to remember what it's like to lose a hell of a lot of the times. But that's what it does feel like. There's that opportunity again in this division to do. If you could stay in this division this season, you could potentially have a more comfortable. I'm not suggesting mid-table like we did in the second Championship season, but you could have a better run at it, because you'd all be very experienced and everybody's up their levels to such an incredible degree to be able to cope with this. And then you buy some extra players and everything. Ross Barkley stays and all that, and it looks a lot better. So, you know, the difference between going down and up in the grand scheme of things, and people don't ever want to really acknowledge that a lot of the time when they're spouting off on social media, me myself included, is that Luton are in a far better place, and going down is not going to be a really massive knock. It'll hurt, and you can be upset about it, because that's football, and that's the day-to-day knockings of results, and win, lose or draw. But ultimately, the big picture stuff is that Luton are going to be in a fantastic position going forward. There'll be a lot of change, obviously, because we'll will probably, if it comes to that, you'd be in a conversation, well, who stays and who goes and that sort of thing. But we're not there yet. It's in the hands of Luton. They've got to play some teams in and around them. They've got to play them at home. The only sort of nervousness, obviously, is, and this is the big cloud over everything, is how many players have we got? Is anyone going to be back?
Yeah, exactly that. I mean, listen, it'll hurt if we get relegated. And I'm still, till that final whistle's blown, I'll refuse to believe it's going to happen until it does. It'll hurt to be relegated, not because next season's going to be, doom and gloom and everything else, because the Championship's still absolutely fine, and those that can't take losing will be all right next season because we'll win a few more games.
But on that, I suppose, if I can just butt in, at certain points this morning when I was being a curmudgeon and I'm trying to recover from that position gradually, it takes a long time, I was thinking, I'm done with the Premier League. Can we just go back to the Championship and win some games, that sort of thing? And I just flip-flop between these different positions. I really would like to stay in the Premier League. The games have been a lot of fun. The results haven't. But, seeing the progression of the team and being very proud of a lot of different things about it, just like the smaller details are really killer at the moment. But, I'm not be lying if I'd said, let's go back to the Championship and have a bloody good time.
No, exactly, yeah. I mean, if we get relegated, the thing that will hurt is the fact that we'll have been fine without these injuries. If the injuries had stopped at Marvellous Nakamba, so just Tom and Marvellous, if the injuries had stopped there, Luton would be fine right now. Would be 6 or 7 points better off at least. I mean, the 3 that got surrendered at Bournemouth ain't getting surrendered. They're just not.
It's 100% a what if scenario, isn't it? Because we're sitting there going, I firmly believe that Luton we wouldn't be worrying about this. We wouldn't be worrying about late goals and.
We'd be in a Bournemouth or Palace situation, wouldn't we?
We'd be in a position where mathematically it'd be possible to go down, but realistically it wouldn't. I firmly believe it. And
yep.
This is part of the frustration, isn't it? Because we're like, what if this hadn't befallen us? And if you go down, it would be the same. You go, well, we didn't go down because we didn't show heart. And we didn't go down because there wasn't some degree of quality. We went down because, yes, we made some mistakes and they're killer, but would you have made those mistakes if you've got all those players available and they were improving in the way they were?
And that's why, I mean, I want to stay in the Premier League, all right? I want to stay in the Premier League because I want to watch Ross Barkley in the Luton shirt for as long as he can play in the Luton shirt for. And the chances are he's not going to play in the Luton shirt in the Championship. We'll deal with that if and when. But I want to stay in the Premier League because I want to see what Luton can do in the Premier League when the cards that we're dealt at the start of a season remain our cards throughout the whole of the game. I want to see just how good this team is. And of course, if we stay in the Premier League, there's another 100 million quid coming along that's going to fund more depth in the squad. That even if we do have an injury situation like this again, and we can't possibly have an injury situation like this again, it's unheard of as it is, that we'll have better depth anyway. I would imagine there's going to be a lot of spending in the summer either way. Usually is around the time of the Euros anyway. Managers will come from international jobs into Premier League jobs, and there'll be, the bigger clubs will stockpile, and then the ones that are left in the reserve will end up at clubs like Luton and things like that. So
and you won't have to spend, loads of millions of pounds on a new stand and that sort of thing, and you can plan it a bit better if you stay in. And there's still the points thing which could go past the end of the season, but if we're doing what Rob's ultimate goal is, which is to be out of that mix on their own merit and not have to worry about points deductions, then you've got a lot more time to plan for it as well. All these different things come into it, and obviously be in a lot stronger position, I think. But so it's kind of ifs and buts at the moment, and I mean, to a certain extent, that's what football is all the time, isn't it? But yeah, we're living in this sort of world where you're just thinking, would we be so much more comfortable with all these players back? And I think undoubtedly, yes.
Yeah, absolutely we would. So no doubt about that. I've referenced 10 years ago in this podcast quite a few times already, but 10 years ago a wise man was saying control the controllables, and ultimately that's all we've got. Speaking of wise men, we've got our very own wise man in charge right now, and that is obviously Rob Edwards. And he wasn't too downhearted after the game, albeit disappointed as he always is, immediately after a defeat, and that's absolutely fine. But even he could put some perspective on it. Here's what he had to say after the game.
It hurts to lose and it hurts all of us. So, I don't feel good right now, but I can still be realistic and know that the size of the task coming here is difficult anyway. It was a challenge for us at the beginning of the game. It became more challenging throughout the game when we lost a couple of players as well. But I'm so proud of the lads for giving everything. We gave ourselves a great platform, a brilliant goal. I thought we pressed high, as in our usual way, really well. And then when we were low, we defended really resolutely. The chances that they had in that first half of the blocks and that little sort of mad period was really from a mistake, our own doing. Other than that, I thought we were good. They made the change with Brennan Johnson coming on at half time. They lifted the tempo a bit. They got back in the game, and we were slightly too narrow. Brennan Johnson got in, and we could have defended obviously the cross better. Just been in a position slightly earlier to body shape to be in a better position for the clearance. But then I thought we settled again. We managed it well because the crowd were obviously whipped up. I thought we managed it pretty well, and then I thought, okay, we're in the game again here. To concede in the manner we did from our own attacking corner that's bitterly disappointing. It'd be disappointing for everybody. Once we've made that mistake on the edge of the box, then we've got to make sure we get back and deal with it. We know they're a fast attacking team, and to concede in that manner is difficult to take. We kept pushing, kept going. Half a chance at the end when Issa got in a little stand up to the far post to Clicker. But look, the players gave absolutely everything, which you can see. That's why the supporters are there. They know how difficult this is at the moment, or anyway, coming to Tottenham whenever. So, look, we have to dust ourselves down. We've got to recover quickly because we know it doesn't get any easier. We've got a really difficult game again on Wednesday. But this is what we wanted. It's what we all wanted. We've got to accept we know it's difficult. We all hate losing, but we'll work really hard again to try and give ourselves a good plan. The plan was great today. The lads executed it really, really well, gave everything, and we just fell short. And there can't be any shame in that, just falling short to a team that's fighting for Champions League qualification. So I know the supporters, they've all heard it before, me being proud of the team after a loss. But I am. It's still, it hurts. It hurts to lose. But look, we're fighting and we're giving everything against these top teams, and we're still in the mix and we're still fighting. And we're gonna do that. We're gonna keep doing that, and we'll be ready again. Whoever's ready on Wednesday to go again. So half time we've lost Berkey again, and Hashi came on. Thought Hashi did really well. But then it becomes more difficult when in game then you're having to make substitutions for injuries, ones that you're hoping then can stay on and give us an impact. So it becomes a challenge. But I look at how we finished the game with that back four of Fred, that's his first taste of football for us, who's a winger at left back, and two right backs on the pitch, and one centre back. It's difficult then against a team of that calibre. So of course it becomes a big challenge, but us and the lads we've got to find a way, and that's it. That's all we can do. And we're doing really well to be competitive with this team today. I think that I need to say that we are to push them all the way. The lads deserve a lot of credit for that. We wanted this. We could have been in the Championship again this season, and we've got this Premier League season that we want to turn into many more, and no one said it was going to be easy. So it's a big challenge, but we're going to give it absolutely everything, and the players will disappoint in there now, but they'll come in again tomorrow and they'll be ready to start the process all over again of going into Arsenal.
Yeah, so a fair bit of perspective and balance from the boss. You wouldn't expect any different, and he's absolutely right. I mean, these boys are maxing out left, right and centre, and that's all we can ever ask. And I mean, as I said earlier in the podcast, myself and James were privileged enough to be at the training ground last week to chat to Thomas Kaminski. We ran into a few players in the corridor and things. They are absolutely desperate to keep this club in the league, not just for themselves, but for us, the fans as well. And we certainly won't go down. If we go down, we certainly won't go down on lack of effort, fight or will to survive. We just hope that these bodies are not going to run out on us. Disappointing day in the end, but another away day it was a great away day. It was you're proud to be a Luton fan there. You know, I've gone through all the perspectives and things, but ultimately not quite the result that we wanted. But we live to fight another day. 8 cup finals, as was said, and we still only need to win 4 of them to stay in this league. So still plenty of time to keep the faith. Thank you to James for keeping me company to look back on an ultimately disappointing afternoon, but one that's carrying plenty of perspective. Thanks for watching or listening, however it is that you've consumed this podcast. Thank you again to everyone who came up and told me how much they're really enjoying the podcast at Tottenham. Really, really appreciate everyone's support. It's you guys that we do this for, so we really, really do appreciate all of your support. Thanks also to the Hightown Club for staging our set, to Sean Grant and the Wolfgang for our intro music, and to Ed Smith Creative for all the designs that you see on set. Until next time, which will be a preview of a nice, easy, comfortable, oh my good God, away game against title challengers Arsenal. Come on, you Hatters.
I love this town. I love this town. I love this town. You know what I love about this town is actually you. Everyone in it has got these massive souls.
We're Luton people.